I may have just found out about this stress oil, but Jesus already knew about it. And if I trust in what Jesus is not going to do, but what he has already done, that's when I find myself dealing correctly with stress. So this idea about that if I do my best, he'll do the rest, that's cute. It rhymes and get a little rap to it, but that is not Bible. It is saying that I know that God gave his best when he gave us his son Jesus. And I have to trust in what Jesus' death and his resurrection did to now receive what God has already done. So it's not me doing my best, it's me trusting what God has already done. And if I trust and apply what God has already done, my best is going to come. We operate in a spirit of what? Exceptional excellence. Our exceptional excellence comes by believing in what Jesus has already done. Believing in what God, in giving his best, has already accomplished. So our focus today, so just let you know, our spiritual focus for our message on today is how to handle stress and or distress. Stress and, anybody want to know how to really do that biblically? Because here's what happens. How many of us have not handled stress well in the past? Don't put up both hands. And at some point in life, there's been a time when we have been stressed and we responded like this other one right here, that we found ourselves either hysterical or not sleeping, amen, headaches, depressed, angry. I mean, folk come ready to hug you, you're ready to snap them. The idea is all is a result of being stressed and or distressed. So we really want to talk about today and look at what's the relationship between stress and distress. And how do we handle that biblically? How do we handle this according to the Word instead of always according to our flesh and the world? So let's be clear about this. What does it say right here? See, if in fact my mind is set that when problems come, I'm going to be stressed, in turns I'm going to always be stressed. But if my mindset is set on knowing that God has already worked it out, and I trust and rest and rely on the finished works of Jesus, then even though I was unaware this was going to occur, I know that God has already worked it out. My mind, I got to set my mind on the fact it's done. I set my mind on the fact that Jesus has already done it. I set my fact not on the fact that it's going to be done, but that it's already done. Can you embrace that with me and give God a hand clap of praise if you know it's already done? Healing is already done. Deliverance is already done. The finished works of Jesus. Let me put it another way. There is nothing more Jesus is going to do than what he's done. I have to trust in what he did. I have to trust that I already have everything his death and resurrection did. Please write this verse down. Hebrews 4:3. It said that all this was finished from the foundations of the world. That whatever situation we're going through, God is not going to work it out. It's already been worked out. And I have to trust in the finished works of these. So my mind has to be set on knowing that Jesus has already worked it out. Not it's going to work out, I'm not sure it's going to work out, but that it's already worked out. Now that has been said. Now, read this with me, please. If your mindset matters, if you don't mind, it doesn't matter. What are we saying here? And just being cute. What it says is we are giving our mind and attention to things that really don't matter. We are wasting energy on things that really don't matter. If you got 10 energy pills in a day, why waste them all by 8 o'clock in the morning and got one to deal with for the rest of the day? My mindset matters. Got to make a decision. Is this worth my time and worthy of my time? If I don't mind, it's not going to matter. Let's put this another way. Read this, please. I will not stress myself out about things I cannot control or change. Stress is often coming by trying to control something we can't control. Trying to change something we can't change. And in turn, we'll see the definition of this in just a moment, but this idea, if your mindset matters, if you don't mind, it does not matter. So let's go back so we're going to get our mindset ready to receive about stress and distress. Our decree, we said before, something that's binding, something that's decided. So let's read together our decree we go through weekly. Let's read this together. read this together. I declare I am special and extraordinary. I am not average. I have been custom made. I am one of a kind. Of all the things God created, what he is most proud of is me. I am his masterpiece, his most prized possession. I will keep my head held high, knowing I am a child of the Most High God, made in his very image. This is my declaration. If you embrace that, please join me in giving God one more hand of praise in Jesus' name. So now our mindset is set on recognizing we're extraordinary, and set on being his masterpiece, and set on not being average. Now we can experience what it's like to go back in and experience overcoming and overtaking stress and distress. Part of it is about doing what? Enjoying the journey. And we talked about before, blessed is the life that finds joy in the journey. Now, you have this scripture on the front of your bulletin, and I'd ask you to join me in reading this together from 2 Corinthians chapter 4, verse 7, from the Holman Christian Standard Version. Let's read this together. But we have this treasure in clay jars. It's kind of hard to look at snow as hot as it is outside. It's clay jars, so that it may be made clear that this extraordinary power belongs to God and does not come from us. Now, what is that really saying? It is saying that we don't have the capacity to overtake stress in our own power. We don't have the capacity to overtake distress in our own power. But because we have an extraordinary God living on the inside of us, and now we become extraordinary, now this extraordinary power can overcome the stress and overtake the stress and also overtake stress as well. So now, extraordinary. This month, we're talking about overtaking. I want to go back and really take a look at our confessions and talk about what we're saying and what it also means as well. So let's repeat this together from this month. I operate in a spirit of exceptional excellence. Keep going. I commit to partake in learning spiritual precepts and to undertake applying spiritual principles in order to overtake spiritual problems. Just to be as a reminder, there is a spiritual root to every problem we face. So if there's a spiritual root to every problem, there has to be a spiritual solution. Amen. There is no problem that we're going to encounter that God has not given us authority and power and dominion to. Come on, somebody. I said there's no problem that we will encounter that God has not given us the power and the authority and the dominion to address as well. So now let's take a look at what this really means. Now, I know you already said this one, but if we take a look at precepts, again, we talked about means, how God is directing. Principles, God's truth. Partake means to join in. Undertake means to promise. Overtake at that point means at this point that we're going to find ourselves seasoned. Now let's read this together, putting all that together. Let's read this together. I commit to join in the process, that's partake, in learning how God directs me. Those will be spiritual precepts, how God's directing. Okay, keep going. And to promise, that's to undertake, to continue applying God's truth, God's principles, in order to seize, take hold of, that's overtaking spiritual problems. So what are we saying here? So we're looking today at 1 Samuel chapter 30, verse 6 in particular, talking about this idea of stress and de-stress. And so I want to call our attention now to 1 Samuel chapter 30, and we're not going to obviously read all 31 chapters, but repeat after me if you would. I am ready to receive the word. I am prepared to receive the word. I am excited about receiving the word. If you just stand to your feet and just join me in reading a portion of this just from what's on the screen together now. And I know if you still want to bring your Bibles, that's fine. But I'll have the screens up here because I know trying between the notes and all the slides and everything, I don't want your hands too full. But the idea, we're going to read this together. And I always have on Sundays the verses we're going to read up here as well. So certainly you can be welcome to read from your scriptures as well, but let's read this together from 1 Samuel chapter 30. Now this is not everything 1 through 6, but I want to lay a foundation about what has occurred to find out David experiencing distress. Let's read this together, beginning in verse 3. When David and his men, before we start this, in verses 1 and 2, the Amalekites had gone in and wiped out and destroyed the town. And what they did was they didn't kill anybody. They took all the women and children and cattle for themselves. And that's what we find right here in verse 3. Keep going now. When David and his men came to Ziklag, that's where they were living, they found it destroyed by fire by the Amalekites, and their wives and sons and daughters taken captive. Verse 4. So David and his men wept aloud until they had no strength left to weep. Keep going on verse now. Now verse 6 now. This is very, we'll read this one. David was greatly distressed because the men were talking of stoning him. That will cause you some stress. But each one was bitter in spirit because of his sons and daughters. Should include the wives too, by the way. But David found strength in the Lord his God. Amen. You may be seated now. So again, let me frame this for us now quite well. So now this is before David now has already overtaken being king. He's still on the run. And during this time we have David is set up with his men. There's 600 men following him and serving him and being with him. Saul is still trying to kill him. And while they're going out here to battle, the Amalekites come in while they're going to battle and burn the city down and take everybody's wife, daughter, son, and all the cattle. And all this left, they walk up and they just see ruins and smoke. So when they come back, what it says here is, look at verse 6, it says that each one was bitter in spirit. They had followed David, all the fighting men had followed David away to go to battle and had left the city unprotected. So the reason they talked about stoning David, because they said, had we not followed and listened to David, we would have been here and could have protected and gotten our sons, our daughters, our wives in turn. So it says that how was David in verse 6? He was what? Greatly. Now think about this. If somebody come out killing you, does that not cause some stress? These are the same folk that were serving him and with him and being with him. These are the same people that come back in here, and because now at this point, they have no idea that the wives and the daughters and sons and cattle are even living. All they know is, think about this. Think about going home right now, and everything you saw was just decimated and destroyed. And think about the people who came to church with you mad at you because you brought them to church. Because if they had been there, they could have kept the fire off. And so all this is going around David, and he is greatly distressed. Today we're going to look at the T and the A today and overtake. The first Sunday we looked at O and V. Last Sunday the E and the R. Today all we're looking at, so if you look at on your outline now, it says overtake. All we're focusing on today is the T and the A for overtake. So again, we talked already, you have this already on your slides there from verse 1 and 2. The Amalekites made a raid. And I'll read this all to you, so if you want to just kind of jot some things down, Amalekites would be the primary point here. Amalekites had made a raid on the south. They say the south, they're talking about the city basically. And where the Amalekites were, the city, Ziklag was south of where they were. So they made a raid from where they were going to the south, and had taken men, women, and all who were there captive. Now, once again, when David and his men returned, they have no idea of knowing their wives and their children and their cattle and everything are still alive. All they see is everything burned down. So the Amalekites did this. The Amalekites made a raid. David and his men were gone. The city was left unprotected, and they raided it. Now this is interesting. Amalekites means pure evil and doubt. And look at it all together. It means the evil eye of doubt. So what are we saying? When we are doubting, it is saying I'm not trusting what God has said. Isn't Isn't that right? When I'm doubting, I'm not believing in what God has said. So if we're not following God, they're calling that evil there. So when we are doubting,